Well, Kyle.
Yes, Garrett.
How many times do I have to show up on one of these videos and say that the hype lived up to the hype?
It's worth saying this was an unnecessary sequel. I mean, really, like the end of 5.0 is phenomenal. And of course, we've got Elidibus and other things in the war to deal with and all that, but I was nervous. I was going to the theater. I was driving myself there being like, oh no. Oh, there's so many opportunities to screw this up. Oh, don't do it. Maybe we just skip this part. This is a massive upgrade. The game never looked better. My character never looked better. Like, that is the big takeaway for me, is how many loving shots of Grahatia there were. Oh my God, Grahatia designed in a lab to be husbanded at maximum speed.
Yeah, I'm feeling that. Like,
the guy is adorable. Absolutely scientifically designed point by point to be cute.
Yeah.
But also phenomenal shots of you, your character. We saw last time the pouring of the tea, that little moment where you went, that was kind of weird. That was really good. And that was just throughout this entire thing. The camera romanced you. A Realm Reborn looks like trash now. Like the evolution of this game and what it's capable of is stark. It is shocking.
I don't even know what to latch on there. I don't know whether to latch on to the little touches like you were talking about. You bring up the tea from the previous patch and suddenly I'm thinking about how good apparently the most disgusting bread in the world looks. But that bread looked like, for an MMO model, that looked amazing. And they did a little seamless model swap, so a bite came out of it even. Like, I'm not used to that happening in World of Warcraft or SWTOR or any other MMO I played.
We grew up in the age of RPGs where you didn't hand things to anybody. Quest objects did not exist. They were all exchanged off camera.
Like the you being the hero of the story thing, right? That's another thing. Like, I guess I'm used to it in the Old Republic, but I've played so much more World of Warcraft. And World of Warcraft has changed over its lifetime in regards to how much it tries to make your character integral to the story. And I didn't really like it when WoW was trying to make you more important as a player character. Like when we showed up to our garrisons, they were like, Commander. And I'm like, yeah, I just want to be a foot soldier. Just keep me in the background. I just want to hang out with the named characters from World of Warcraft. I don't need to be a main character. And now having played Final Fantasy XIV, it's not that I always want to be in the background, but it's that if I'm going to be in the foreground, you better do it right. And Final Fantasy XIV does it very, very right.
It took the time to properly frame me up, make me look awesome, light me. Yeah, textures can be a little rough when we get that close, but that's just video games when you can zoom out that much in tactical gameplay.
Yeah, 100%. That's where I think a lot of us, if you've played a lot of MMOs, you give a certain degree of, you have some, what's the word I'm looking for?
Leeway?
Yes, you give the game some leeway because you played some MMOs and the game can only go so far with presentation. But 14 has continued to surprise me time and time again about how far it can go. You bring up textures. I think about clipping issues a lot. Like,
sure.
Yes, they happen, especially when you're wearing spiky-ass Dark Knight armor. But the amount of times it doesn't look janky, like just how few and far between moments of little visual jank is. I always say the fit and finish, like when I talk about kind of any game. And the fit and finish of 14, especially when you get to 5.3, is impeccable. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You know, maybe you're watching this and you're like, wait, I missed the stream. Where do you stream? Is it on the other web? No, it's not. It's right here. It's right on this website. It's on YouTube. We stream right here. We stream multiple times a week. We have new videos every Wednesday. We also have a podcast that we record on Thursday. Check it out this week because we're hanging out with Jesse Cox.
I have watched, this is absolutely true. I've watched every single Final Fantasy XIV video made in the last 2 years, I think, because I'm a crazy person.
Get it all right here on the Grinding Gear YouTube channel, so please hit that subscribe button. Thanks. Like, there's a lot of memes about anime game, right? I was guilty of that. But this is such a good mix of, like, what I see as what drew me to anime in my early teens, which was, like, that childish attraction to things that are just badass, that are just grandiose and outlandish and bombastic and visually interesting, edgy, dripping with cool factor. There's got to be a term for this that I don't know or am failing to pull from my brain. But there's that like kind of childish desire for those things mixed.
Our brave and gentle artist. You have our love, now and always.
With a really strong narrative that is pretty damn mature and grown up. And the two meld really well in this patch.
And we have a term for this, and I hate it, nerd chills, right? But literally sitting in your chair in a room by yourself, getting adrenaline rushes in your spine because what you're perceiving is emotionally resonating with you and so badass that you can't help but be intensely invested. On top of that, it's a functional story. Like we hit points, we hit outlandish ideas, and made our way through some heavy lore with just enough. It's here if you want it. It's available for you to care about the deeper ins and outs of the councils and what Elidibus is. If you don't grab onto it, you still have an awesome dungeon, an awesome fight, a excellent conclusion and wrap up to your actions on the first.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of left with last night at the time of recording this. We were recording this the next day, so if I look a little sleepy, I was up till 2:30 a.m.
What was that? 9 hours? Only 9 hours to get through
5.3.
5.3.
And let me tell you this, I did not fall asleep when I laid down in bed. It did not happen quickly. Yeah, I was very left with a feeling of what a journey we just went on.
And we've properly lived on the first. We've done a lot of side activities. We've done a lot of daily quests there. We've explored. We've done the role quests. Everything we can. It made the ending of this that much more weighty as compared to like Heavensward, which we kind of just kept moving through. I didn't really have a relationship to the Sea of Clouds when it was time to stop going there. The first, while we can go back there, feels complete. That's a great rest moment before, I'm sure, Oops, all Xenos takes over the game.
You're forgetting Fandango.
Yes, old Fan Daniel, who is entirely new. Something about that room just makes Asians go full theater kid. They just freak out in that room. They see that chair and they just get too excited.
Was that the throne room?
Yeah. He killed everybody and turned out the lights. Well, yeah, I expected the teacher to walk in and be like, Xenos, you're sitting in the dark again. Click. Okay, come on, everybody. I am satisfied with the answers we got at this time. I do have some questions, but I think I'm just more excited for the changeover. To be moving this plot along, it didn't overstay its welcome, but I'm excited to see what Asians do without the overburden of duty. They just get to be crazy now. Crazy for crazy's sake.
Yeah, I mean, Elidibus was pretty crazy. La Habrea was pretty crazy. They were still crazy with a goal.
Yeah, and now they have no goal except for to be crazy, perhaps. And that'll be fun. The leading factor in the room is what Xenos is up to. And I still believe he's going to somehow get embroiled in eating Zodiark or waking Zodiark in some way.
Weirdly depressed.
Well, he's having that dream all the time. And it's badass, and he wants to live it.
Well, before we get to Xenos, we have to say a lot of words about Elidibus.
First thing that happened was the children. We have to think of the children. They were setting up a whole atmosphere where the Warrior of Light is not some new concept. Elidibus in Ardbird's body didn't put this thought in their head, and it wasn't even Ardbird proper that put this thought in their head. The Warrior of Light has been around since antiquity.
Yeah, which we kind of we were hinting at that last patch when we went back to the Katana Ravel and, saw the massive coffin for an old bun girl Warrior of Light. We didn't really explore how or why we summoned Elidibus while thinking of Ardbird.
It's left nebulous on purpose.
It felt important because it's kind of how we kicked this. I mean, technically we kicked this off by like hanging out in the library with Morin, but it seemed important in the moment. Like Elidibus seemed a little like, huh, how'd you do that? And then we don't address it. Don't address it again.
I'm riding with Y'shtola on this one. They're constantly using Y'shtola's character to present ideas and theories and then back it up. The writers want us here to interpret this in our own way. And I see it two ways. One, it's our Amoratine self and sort of our link to that creation magics calling out to Elidibus proper. Or it was the ghost of Emmett, who's kind of with us a little bit in this moment. Our memory of him called out to his friend. He doesn't want him to be alone. Elidibus was off brooding. He was sad in this moment. He's so lonely and lost and confused. We made a connection with him while we were thinking about Ardbert.
I like that interpretation. Let's just run with it.
This is also our first Echo in a Ascian head. There's nothing necessarily exclusive about the Echo that would stop that from happening. It just hasn't happened so far.
Also, technically not an Ascian? Technically the memory of an Ascian made manifest through mass hope?
Did we Echo link with a primal?
You truly are a primal.
Yes, but he's a very particular primal because he's still an Ascian. But that's not to say that, Bismarck isn't a whale. That primals are still what they are. It's just how they're empowered.
Yeah. We were talking about how Ysayle took on the memories of Shiva. So much so that she thought she was the reincarnation.
And then we have the Gabu situation where that translated over to Titans.
Yeah, we saw some of the parents parental vibes in Titan, but it didn't completely overtake it. Titan was still Titan.
Ultimately, it does justify why Elidibus is so confusing. Because he's confused. Because he has fractured memories. He's not fully aware of what he is. He just knows his goals. And instead of exact names of the convocation, we have his distorted memories, which slowly become clearer over the course of this. Our first one up on the kind of landing where we fist bumped Ardbert is extremely fuzzy. In fact, the red of the mask is barely visible in this one. They're sort of hinting, they're building at that as they go.
Yeah, and so we're getting this intertwining of these fractured memories from Elidibus, and then these whole but short and sweet memories from the convocation.
Which were left by Emmett, so that his friend wouldn't be lonely.
That's just Y'shtola's theory, Kyle. She could be wrong. She was drinking tea in this. I need a replacement. Is it Kermit sipping tea? Out of here. That meme is dead to me. I need Y'shtola sipping tea of, well, I think Emmett helped us, but that's none of my business.
The convocation speaker, the speaker of Zodiark, is that La Habrea. But we do know that the convocation did assign Elidibus this job, and they basically wanted him to keep balance. They say, at times you will stand with us, at times you will stand against us, all that you might steer mankind and this very star upon their true course. So regardless of how he was birthed again out of Zodiark, that is his job. We have official confirmation that Elidibus isn't confused on that front.
No, and it explains, it is like the counter to my grumbles about Elidibus as a malformed character that seems to have no allegiance and becomes whatever he needs to be for the convenience of the story. And whether or not you could say this is easy way out or not to explain that, I'm perfectly happy with it. I think that it totally explains an issue I had of when he's in Xenos, it doesn't even feel like I'm fighting Elidibus. It just feels like I'm fighting Xenos. It makes sense now, seeing where it ended up and getting that backstory, and also the fact that also he's damaged and fractured, like you said, doesn't have a proper memory. He's just operating off of these mantras he's just been repeating to himself endlessly for eons.
And we can even say this fully justifies the Xenos roleplay, because when Elidibus gets a hold of something, he's able to channel directly their power, whether it's our fight with him in the solo duty where he channeled all of Ardbert's ability. Elidibus isn't a rock and fire kind of guy. That's a warrior type of thing. Same with the Crystal Exarch's powers, which he was fully able to use when he got a hold of the crystal. In Xenos' body, he had all his memories, and with so little left of Elidibus himself, it makes sense that he became fully Xenos, outside of the goal, the duty at the end.
For Elidibus is my name, and my mission, guiding my every deed.
And we got to see the room in the back of the Rising Stones where the Scions are being kept healthy to the best of Kryle's ability.
That door that I swore wouldn't open. They just needed like some WD-40 or something. Someone lost the key.
And they made a great choice. Since they are sustained by magic, what we would kind of picture as a coma-like hospice wouldn't really translate in this world. So they kept it dark. They kept it mooded. And it really added a layer of mysticism and fear to that place.
Oh, I think they just wanted it to look cool, and I'm
Sure.
all for it. A little bit. I think 14 up until this point has had a little bit of a set piece problem. Everything is a little too. Well, really, I think a lot of it comes down to a lot of the cutscenes are beholden to the day-night cycle of the game, which means sometimes you just get ugly-looking cutscenes with low frame rate shadows dancing across your heroes and your titular characters with seemingly like no thought to where they are, because there isn't. You're just in the real-time lighting. So when they wrestle control of the lighting in this game, it looks great. More of this, please. This looked wonderful. Having Kryle like lit by her own magics, and then when she stops, that single candle in the background. Yeah, okay, it's not a PS5 game. I've got a 4090. I've played Resident Evil 4 Remake. I've seen prettier games, but this is still really effective, and they're doing a lot with the tools available to them. I can't say enough about how good this patch looks.
And again, you find yourself in that spoiler-free territory of like wanting to show somebody, a potential player, how good this game will look someday, while also not wanting to give away the goose or ruin their A Realm Reborn experience, which is perfectly normal if you've been in other MMOs.
Yeah. I love the Old Republic. It's showing its age. But yeah, it was just cool to finally get to see this room, check back in. There weren't any major revelations in the scene. It was just like a final, like, hey, reminder, you are on a ticking clock. Your friends are not long for this world or the other world they happen to be stuck on right now. And all of that just like it's just dovetails nicely into all of the stage setting that's going on at the beginning of this patch. Of course, I was thinking for a moment that maybe this entire patch would be about bread.
It's nice bread.
Black Mask Ascians are back. Thancred's not doing so well. However, we are progressing nicely with the soul vessels, and we get a nice new model for those, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, funny that the Black Mass Ascians are so shit at their job.
Well, dude, that was a payoff that like so much happened last night. I didn't talk about this, but like when they first mention it, the Black Mask Ascians are showing up. I'm like, they're kind of small potatoes now, aren't they? And then at the end of this patch, they are. They even said, like, not even in the end, like the middle of this patch, Thancred's like,
a task which proved almost insultingly easy.
Okay, cool. We're not upsetting the apple cart like this. That's a known quantity. And then Thancred even goes so far as to explain, or maybe it was Oriange, that like they were just fodder for the budding heroes that Elidibus has created by creating a bunch of new Warriors of Light. Like intentionally just making cannon fodder to make these heroes that you're trying to gaslight feel good about themselves.
Yeah, believe in themselves. We have a language, a meta understanding of video games. And so often the ant was red and now it's purple and therefore it's 20 levels higher. It was a really nice consistency to their canon that the Black Mask Ascians were crap. Just there to inspire heroes to feel great about themselves. And that works into Elidibus's own persona that he has crafted as the Warrior of Light, as this hero who has had to keep balance in the past. In the moment, the climax of the solo duty and following Elidibus around and going on your journey again, as we know there's a giant endwalker that is an end to the story looming, it was a strange moment to do a rewind of history.
Yes, but it also made sense for the abilities of the Ascians, right? Being in the conjured city seems like a good, like fighting someone who can conjure things seems like a really good lore reason to have this encounter. So I'm okay with it. But I'm not okay with Elidibus catnapping Y'shtola. So I was glad we got to throw down. Although apparently Elidibus can't tie a knot for shit.
We don't know the minor incantations of a scion. Maybe they had use rope.
But yeah, that was a fun duty. Made me miss all of our dead friends. They didn't make us kill our dead friends. We didn't have to fight Ysayle. We didn't have to fight Harshafant. Elidibus is cruel, but he's not that cruel. Although he's parading around in the literal corpse of our friend. And I know we already kind of touched on the Trail of Crystals, but I got to bring it up here because Hythlodaeus showing up again hyped me up big time. Hadn't thought of Hythbro since 5.0, but he made an impression.
It's a nice touch. And while he is manufactured, he's not really concerned about it. Whether this is his actual one or what he was programmed for, it's all good by him. And I like that. I like that about Hythlodaeus. And what a cool breadcrumb trail to explore, to build that convocation of 14 as a functioning force, as something that wasn't wholly evil.
That's kind of the whole thing with Shadowbringers, right? I mean, there's a lot of different themes in this, but a major one, and I think arguably the most effective, is the humanization of the major villain of this entire series, mining the depths of Ascians before they were Ascians, essentially. So I think it's really effective, and having Hythlodaeus here is, I mean, it's more than it goes beyond just being like, hey, it's that dude I like. Like in the scene with the Elidibus where Y'shtola outs him as a primal, she also calls into question his memory, and it seems like kind of ruffles his feathers a bit. And then this scene with Hythlodaeus, Hythlo essentially confirms it. Like, it has like a one-liner just about like, this dude can't even remember why he fights anymore.
Oh my! What a spectacular sky!
So with all this pressure on his psyche, Elidibus decides to up the ante by taking shower plus city and projecting it further by giving even more memories to people to make the Warrior of Light condition come on that much faster.
Yeah, I felt bad for the guy who clearly was not a shard of an Amoratine, who was still just bawling his eyes out looking at Amarat.
Look at this photograph.
Or even the guy who kind of seemed like he was just some craftsman, now gifted with the echo. Granted, minors sometimes get echoes too, but it showed just how rampant, how unfocused Elidibus's attack on the first had become. So much so that he doesn't even care if he's summoning forth full heroes anymore. He's just ripping ghosts, ripping spirits from other worlds.
He's throwing everything he can as quickly as he can, right? And it does it. It's all a means to an end. And also, it was a practical thing because when we get to what is essentially a flashback scene, but in purposes here, we can talk about it in order. When he gets to the ocular, right? When he seizes control of it from Graha is even like, "Good luck, buddy. Just so you know, it's pretty hard to do." And Elidibus is just like, "I don't need all of them. I just need their souls. That'll suffice." Like, and it's just like it's a one line and go. Like, for as verbose as this game can be, I like when it becomes Spartan with its explanations and just keeps the action flowing.
This also serves to double down on no Scion echoes. Even Alizé early on in the adventure of 5.3 confirms she got no echo. Without a shadow of a doubt, there is no bonus echoes among the Scions. They have all now been double super exposed to Hydaelyn memory business.
The Amarat, though, is only appearing in Yulmore. I never saw it in any of the other zones when we were fighting through the other zones.
No, but we do have a global star shower, which in tow with the sky that we were already impressed with when we started this game. Any sort of dynamic weather is always fascinating in games. Having that sort of set change, palette change, to go through the world, see the Crystal Tower backdropped by star shower was beautiful. And what a great motivating factor as we entered our dungeon.
To me, the Hero's Gauntlet is just a more effective Gimlet Dark.
I agree with that take. That's a good take.
Gimlet Dark is a really cool set piece, but I had no attachment to the area we were fighting through. Where, when we're in the Hero's Gauntlet here, I feel a great desire to protect, and I have a great attachment to every single place every single set piece we're running through, because we are revisiting all of the first. Like, we're revisiting the entire expansion that we are about to complete.
And all of our animatronics on the side are pushing us on through this adventure as we make it past our trolley friends into Lakeland, which honestly has never looked more badass with the fire in the sky. You have all of our would-be warriors of light, the guards, fighting the various spirits. We have excellent bosses. These are really, really cool bosses, thematically, but also just mechanic-wise. They were very, very cool.
You got our butts handed to us, but the set piece in the distance of approaching the Crystal Tower with the Star Shower, it's so good. It's so good. It's almost like we're reflecting on the journey we've completed up till now.
We got a little bit of this moment with Mount Gold. You know, we had the forces show up. We had Titania in the air fighting. But this was really the Dragon Age moment I was waiting for. This was the culmination of every faction that we have interacted with coming together for a great battle. Even the Lord of the Longsome Gate showing up and throwing down as we made our way through.
Yeah, it got a Lord of the Rings vibe multiple times this patch, but definitely got it here. It was a great set piece moment, and then it leads to some really good character moments as we push on toward the Ocular.
Whoever taught you that is a wise man indeed, and good with a gunblade.
And we're constantly doing the leave people behind thing. I'm okay. Beg Lug on the ground. I'm okay. All of our scions, they're going to be okay. We push forward and get our buddy climb with crystallizing Grahatia.
It's such a great full circle, because where we leave Lug is where we started the journey in Shadowbringers. That's the exact spot where we met the merchant who gets killed by the Sin Eater. And then we even go to the gate and meet Lena, which was, again, how we started Shadowbringers. But now, instead of meeting Lena and then Graha showing up, we arrive with Graha. And we essentially get the first goodbye scene of many in this exit scenario. It's just that most of the goodbyes happen in sequence. This one is its own little moment, isolated from the rest.
If you've played this game and you don't know how to do a proper goodbye anymore, you weren't paying attention.
Don't leave things unsaid.
The name of the quest, after all.
Oh boy. Running up this Crystal Tower with Grahatia. Its poor foot goes crystal. This patch had a lot of love for feet. I think Quentin Tarantino directed it.
Give the fans what they want.
Like a whole raid freaking gets ported in. And you know he's gonna be like, go on with that. And you're just like, you adorable bastard.
I love the breaking of Elidibus. Because we tried this with Emmett, and he was more resilient in his guilt and purpose. But poor Elidibus is so lost, so confused, and no better is this highlighted in the moment when he says,
I am Elidibus, and it is my duty to steer mankind and the very star upon their true course. This I swore to someone.
And it all starts crumbling for the guy. And you are stalwart. You stand a statue before him, fully constructed in your purpose.
I absolutely love this unraveling of Elidibus. He's like so staunchly second tier, second fiddle to Emmett for me at this point. Like, I love the character of Emmett, a wonderfully realized villain, and I'm calling it now. No one else in Final Fantasy XIV is going to one-up Emmett for me. I don't think it's going to happen. Whatever the case is, you're still going to witness his mental unraveling here, and I love it. I wouldn't even, and it is a bit of a trope, but it's like an archetype. However you feel about Elidibus, you are still going to sit there and witness the moment that he realizes everything he thought that made him is unraveling, is falling apart, is lost to his time and his experience. It's a storytelling device I absolutely love. It's a big reason Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies.
The rains have ceased, and we have been graced with another beautiful day. but you are not here to see it.
This will always work for me as long as it's well executed, and it definitely is here.
And it's constantly mirroring and rhyming with itself. You can make parallels between the Crystal Exarch and Elidibus. You can make parallels between Emmett and Elidibus and us. Who has the most resolve? Who's right in the room? We even have this voice from within. Ardbert speaks to us about how much we've been through, but we never forgot what was dear to us, and Elidibus has. Why should, in all his sadness, Elidibus be allowed to be victorious when he doesn't even know what he's fighting for anymore? And in that moment when Emmett lost, he realized all that time he spent with humanity, he still hadn't seen the strength and the beauty that humanity had to offer.
And then we still get a massive action-packed throwdown.
Well, I mean, it is a video game after all. You got to play a little video game.
But it really worked for me. Even though I know it's other Final Fantasy references, those are always lost on me because I didn't play them and it didn't matter. Like
the model, the dude, the word of lightning became?
I think it's a Final Fantasy 1 reference.
Oh, well, that's nice. That's bring it home.
Ride it home.
Oh God, yes.
The f***ing music.
The song. Oh my God. I love when riffs change, when there's a different take on the theme song. If they play it sad, but it's usually victorious. Simple things compared to this.
What if all the motifs at once?
What if we took all the songs you love and put them in one song with the ticking clock, with the ride it home, and just combined your entire journey and encapsulated it in a single song for your fight? That's victorious. That's crazy. Absolutely nuts. We are defeating a major villain here across the game. But they've set themselves up many different options for the future, such as we have this primal birthing, perhaps, of Elidibus. Elidibus is also able to empower himself to level up using spirits he has summoned, a primal upgrade of sorts. We also have our own magics we bring, using the crystals, maybe using the memory of Emmett to summon forth our own champions from beyond the rift. And it's beautiful. The start of this fight, the reflection back to Crystal Tower, which would have been required for anybody who didn't do it at this point, that must have been a trip. Can you imagine? All the set piece, all this beauteous advanced camera angles, and you gotta go hang out with the Noah crew for a little bit.
I mean, this was the patch where Crystal Tower was made mandatory.
Just the pages of notes, the whiteboards, as the writers attempted to still leave options for people to miss content. And they probably just went, you know what? No, we're not half-assing this. We're not doing some sort of, you don't really know who Grahati is at this point. We're just going to make you go do that. Go do your walk of shame. You never did it.
You had to see Graha go to sleep so that the end of point 3 hits. Like, it would be so deflated if you didn't know about that.
And he's enamored with you. And in the past, there's wiggle room. There's options. He just really likes you as a hero. But it's so integral to that initial journey you went through with the Noah crew, with Nero, with everybody. It makes full sense. But it must have been stark. It must have really been something to go from this quality back to Crystal Tower, which again is fine in MMO Town, but we've reached full RPG solo game levels here.
I got what I wanted.
What's that?
More Emmett.
You did? Yeah. The Seed of Sacrifice was a very cool fight. You limit braked. A tank limit break required by the game.
Eventually,
as props to our mods for keeping us in our extreme mindset that we enjoy so much.
And I even eventually did it at the right time.
Yes, well, it's small. Tank limit breaks are tiny little windows of time.
Yes, apparently. I don't know. I've never done a tank limit break until this very evening. So, as excited as I was for Emmett, immediately all the immersion was broken as killed all of us 3 more times.
We had to see it a few times to get through. Yes, it was just the day one experience we were having, the organic experience.
I feel like in general chat, people would have been yelling the answers sooner than we figured it out.
Yes, unless you were really on the cutting edge playing night of release, probably some people in the chat would have let you know.
Maybe, yeah. I was avoiding chat for spoilers because our mods were running with us.
It was a feast of the eyes. This chapter was full of just wallpaper shots. And as Elidibus, the warrior of light, stands there and the other warrior spirits jump in behind him, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful look. If there was any shadow of a doubt on the snap, they did the wave. They 100% made sure you walked away from this knowing
I
that's
did not hear the snap the first time. In the mix, or at least the volumes I have my game at, which is music quite loud, I could barely hear the snap. So I was like, it kind of looked like a snap. And the actual animation of the finger snapping is not nearly as exaggerated as when Emmett does it in his Solace body. The freaking wave. To take a character model, the Amoritine, that is essentially standardized, copy, pasted, reused for every Amoritine you ever see. So to have one show up and for you to know exactly who it is just by the way they wave is an accomplishment. It worked. I absolutely fanned out. They just kind of got to a point where I'm like, I think I'm done with WoW again. I'll tell you what I'm not doing. I'm sure as shit not playing Final Fantasy. It's a good game.
We have our Demon Slayer moment with Elidibus. I thought it was expertly done. It's a trope you see in a lot of different movies where you defeat the bad guy. Now it's time to see how they became who they are. We already knew all of this. So instead, we were able to have a nice little connection with the childlike version of Elidibus that existed inside him.
Little Bis.
Little Bis. Nice.
Can't claim that. I saw it in chat. It made me laugh.
Oh, okay. And then Grahatia strikes a pose before he goes full crystal.
We have a parade of goodbyes. So which one was your favorite is what I want to ask you.
Oh, that's a good question. They're all so different. I do think it's amusing that Oriange didn't have a goodbye. It was all business. Got to clean up. I even have some books I can donate to the library.
He didn't really personally connect with anyone on the first, though, besides the Fae, who can go and say hi to him if they want.
Pick your flavor of goodbye. We had so many. We had goodbye to a child, an orphan. We had goodbye to basically a giant dog. We had goodbye to a mother figure. We had goodbye to a daughter. Are we missing anything?
Goodbye to almost boyfriend.
He said he was joking. Bad move. You keep it serious, but you know he still pronounced his love, and I'll give him that. And just to threw him the bone of I may be able to come back someday.
That scene was adorable.
It was very cute.
It turns out things can still make me feel.
Haven't seen it all yet. Or like baking. It's all the ingredients you've tried before. It's what order you put them in. And this goodbye, I mean, this is a solid, even without stream, this is a solid hour and a half of gameplay of these goodbyes. And it's something we didn't get in 5.0 because the story was going to continue. There was this sequel and these patches leading to 5.3. So it was a very, very welcome thing.
All right. Listen, it's a lot of fine words, but you didn't answer my question. What was your favorite goodbye, Kyle?
I mean, my favorite goodbye was chai. Those are the kind of words you should say to somebody. Like all of this is something you should take an example of. How you would exit this chapter and go be toxic to someone in the game. How you don't turn and call someone you love. Like, seriously.
Chai definitely hit me the hardest personally. But my favorite is the unvoiced one with Grahati and Lena.
Oh, that is a good one. Yeah.
The writing is I thought really effective and Lena just really snuck up on me as a favorite character coming out of Shadowbringers. And she's not in it a lot, but the scenes she ends up in are really effective.
Yeah.
And even though she's voiced so rarely, just something about the way they write her like daughter-like affection for Grahatia and vice versa. Right. Anytime they have to write Grahatia speaking about Lena, there's a lot of love there. And there's just something about it. I just think it's really moving. is the best way to say it. And I think they really did well. They really did well by those two characters in their final scene together. And I also just love the overarching theme in a lot of these goodbyes about like putting on a brave face, like everyone just being like, I know the end is coming and I just want it to be a happy memory. Like, and like Graha, I thought Graha and Lena's scenes could have been a lot sadder, and I'm glad they weren't. And same goes for Reen and Thancred. Though I would have loved to have seen Thancred cry.
Thancred was on character, right? He was cracking jokes. He was looking away, kind of keeping it together, looking at the sky for a hot moment.
Thancred, I believe the honor of responding should rightfully be thine.
He's made his emotional connection, and I enjoy the character he's become. It would have been fun to see him, fully dive deep into the emotion, but that's not who he is. I've never had a dog, but if I had a dog, I bet you Seto would have gotten me. Like, that would have just been brutal.
If I hadn't already been destroyed by Chai, I think it probably would have.
Yeah, a little spent
bit
already when you got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. It's another thing that like lived up to the warnings from folks.
You bring up the Graha and Lena, and that reminds me a lot of my grandpa, like someone I didn't really understand, someone I wasn't old enough to fathom what their age had brought them. And saying goodbye to somebody like that. Pick your emotional poison here, because you've got everything under the sun.
Yours is a long road, my friend, and it stretches onto places beyond imagining.
And then we go from all the goodbyes to the traditional, all the cutscenes.
I mean, when you knew Xenos was going to be somewhere in here,
I really was thinking that he was going to find some way to get the killing blow on Elidibus.
Interesting.
Like going into this, I was kind of thinking that for some reason we would go back to the source and Elidibus would follow us and we'd have our final showdown and Xenos would get in the mix somehow, because I thought Xenos still kind of had unfinished business with Elidibus and felt he was robbed of a fight against that like a proper full-on Ascian, but also, how dare you parade around in my body kind of a thing, just like getting a little revenge.
Sure, I think he's transcended beyond that. He is more powerful than any Ascian, and he's simply bored by them. So much so that when our fan Daniel is throwing money in the air, literally dancing around him, he goes, wait, who are you again? What? What are you doing here? I'm sorry, I was dreaming. I was thinking about the apocalypse. Sorry about that.
It really kind of reminded me of like, have you watched a lot of like hard dramas that involve illicit drug use and you end up in the drug den?
Sure. I know the feel.
Like it happened in Breaking Bad a few times. It happens in kung fu movies with opium dens. But like where you get these characters that are so just completely down the well of their high that they're not even connecting with each other anymore.
It is worth admitting we didn't get the chin.
I can only imagine people who are watching the stream when you were like, oh, they plugged Asahi into the back of Ultima, being like, you couldn't be wrong in the most right way.
Right character, wrong plug.
Yeah, you're right in the wrongest way possible. It was
at least I guess I brought him up, but when he started going off about Brutus's, he has access to all of Asahi's fun. He even mentioned the Populari, and I was like, oh crap.
That's when I started to think I didn't catch up on the Brut. Is that his house? Is it like House Brutus or something? Like, is that a thing I was unaware of? And then he mentioned the Popularis, and I'm like,
that's a weird thing to bring up, huh?
Yeah, we haven't heard about that
in a while.
And then like seconds later, reveal, and I'm like, oh no. Like, I'm going to have to look at that face for an entire expansion again. At least it's a face I like to punch. Why couldn't you have, like, done Yatsuyu again or something? Why'd you have to grab Asahi? They were in the same room.
Let her rest, I say. Let her rest.
I mean, yes. Yeah, Yatsuyu deserves her rest, but of all the characters, of all the corpses to parade back out, why did it have to be Asahi?
Asahi looks a little upgraded. His face is a bit more functioning than it was at the end of Stormblood.
Well, the facial expressions just in general got a lot better. Like the dying Elidibus still in the Avatar Warrior of Light form face as he dies and dissipates into the black smoke.
Yes,
into
that was
white.
nice.
Like that facial expression was really well done. I think the model's the same. I think it's just their animation got better, and there was definitely a lot of performance capture happening in these final scenes. There's one, I want to do like a 20-minute breakdown of just Graha's staff almost falling over, and I think we catch it and give it back to him, or Y'shtola catches it and gives it back to him.
Speaking of romance in the camera, yes. Yeah.
It's so well done.
I mean, you could definitely notice it in Alizé. When Alizé was banging her head on the table, rolling around, slumping, like that whole scene, holding the tea.
Everybody.
Oriange Yu-Gi-Oh-ing his cards out to the side.
Yeah, there's a lot of custom animations, and it looked really natural, like really natural. And it just, that's the kind, that to me, that was the fan service I'm here for. Like, how many times on these videos have I mentioned I live for the kitchen scenes on Firefly?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I just want characters that I love interacting with each other. I want fly on the wall scenes. You can overdo them. That's why they feel special, because if they happen too much, it would be boring. But when it's the only good thing in Avengers 2, for crying out loud. The movie's so dumb, but that apartment scene is fantastic.
I love Alizé in general, just being so bored and ready to battle. We add a new scion to the crew.
It's a hell of an ending, man. I feel like I need to go into Crystal Tower slumber after this.
Well, we've got Nier. We get to continue that madness.
We get to wear body thongs.
We got more Eden on the way with Reen. I like that the game acknowledged that our departing didn't have to be sad, because we can go back whenever we want. And we're going to complete that raid. I need to breathe a little bit before, as excited as Alizé is for a new adventure, I'm spent. Shadowbringers is over.
Dude, I am. I'm today. I'm really experiencing like the end of book sadness.
Yeah,
I'm just like, damn, that was an experience. Like, we really took our time with it. When we get some years under our belts after all this, like, I'm gonna look back and be like, man, that time we streamed Shadowbringers for the first time was a trip.